We had a chance to check out the new League of Legends TCG Riftbound ahead of their official release at the end of October. As someone who hasn't played League of Legends in over 10 years and has somehow still not seen Arcane, I had a great time playing it and I can't wait to play again when the game launches. I'm going to be picking up a structure deck and seeing what happens. Taking inspiration from other TCGs like Lorcana's point system, Magic's combat change, and One Piece's separated resource system, Riftbound sets out to be an all-action, no shuffling experience set within the vast and lore-heavy world of League of Legends. As with all TCGs, collecting has not been forgotten too, with packs made up of common, uncommon, rares, epics, and foil cards with alternative arts for the 12 main champions, as well as runes! With the huge popularity of the League of Legends IP, and Arcane catching some more of the mainstream audience, we expect this to pique the interest of many collectors, especially as other card games like Pokemon are becoming harder and harder to find at retail. Whilst Riftbound is set in the world of League of Legends, the game does a good job of making itself accessible to newcomers even if they're not tapped into the lore. With clear card instructions and firmly stated mechanics across the board, it doesn't take long for it to click and to immerse yourself fully into the battle at hand. Riftbound's playing cards are split up into 8 different types: Legend, Champion Unit, Units, Signature Cards, Gear, Spells, Runes, and Battlefields. The Legend card is the leader of your deck and secures a place in the Legend zone at the beginning of the game. Your Legend card dictates the colour of the cards your deck can use. Your Legend also helps inform your playstyle with its written effect, which remains active throughout the game. Rune cards are used to play the cost of your cards, units and spells alike. Your runes will live in a separate 12 card deck where you will channel them into the game and recycle them back to the bottom of your deck periodically. When a rune is used to pay an energy cost, it becomes exhausted. You can have as many of the same rune in your rune deck as you want. Riftbound currently has 6 different types of runes to play with: the Red Fury rune, the Green Calm rune, the Orange Body rune, the Blue Mind rune, the Yellow Order rune, and finally the Purple Chaos rune. Units make up your army and are placed into your base exhausted, unless stated otherwise. All units have an energy cost associated with them in the top left corner, the number indicating how many runes need to be exhausted. The rune icon below indicates which runes and how many needs to be recycled in order to play it. The number on the top right is the unit's might, which functions as both the health and the attack power of the card. Champion units function the same as regular units, except you're able to place one of them in your champion zone at the beginning of the game if the tag matches your Legend. Once in the champion zone, you're able to play it into your base as you would any other unit. Spells are cards you can play during the game to get the edge. Spells can be broken down into 3 main categories: base, action, and reaction. Base spells, or regular spells, can be used at any point during your own turn. Action spells can be used during your turn or in showdowns. And reaction spells can be played anytime, including after a spell is played but before it resolves. Once resolved, all spell cards are moved to the trash. Signature cards are powerful but Legend specific cards that can only be used if the tag matches that of your Legend. These cards are made up of both units and spells, and each deck can only have a maximum of 3 inside it. Gear can be played into your base to give you an advantage in the game. You can make use of the gear's effect as long as it is in play. Unlike units, gear must remain within the base, cannot be sent to the battlefield, and don't enter play exhausted. Battlefields set the stage of the battle. Each player will choose one of 3 battlefields at the beginning of the game to play. These battlefields will activate their effects throughout the game and serve as places of conflict between units. In the case of a best of 3, a battlefield cannot be repeated, and so players must choose a different battlefield at the start of the new game. Everyone plays with a 40 card main deck. You can only have a maximum of 3 of the same card in your deck. You sent me a message, Will, in Discord, and it distracted me. The champion card you choose to put in your champion zone counts towards both of these numbers. In addition to the 40 card deck, you'll have the 12 card rune deck, a champion legend to lead your deck, and you'll choose 3 battlefields, of which you'll pick one to use at the beginning of each game. Riftbound has a point-based system where the first player to reach 8 points wins the match. Points are earned through conquering and holding battlefields. When a player reaches 7 points, they can't gain the final point by conquering, unless by doing so they would be in control of both battlefields. If the player is only able to conquer one battlefield, they'll draw a card instead of gaining a point. The player would then gain their 8th point upon holding the battlefield at the start of their next turn. At the start of the game, each player draws 4 cards and then has the opportunity to recycle up to 2 cards from their hand, drawing a new card for each card recycled this way. The start of each turn can then be broken down into 4 sections: A, B, C, and D. A. Awaken. Unexhaust all units and runes. B. Beginning. If any of the player's units are occupying a battlefield at this point, then they are holding. and they gain a point. Any effects that happen at the beginning of that turn should now be activated. C. Channel. The top 2 cards of the rune deck are played into the rune zone. If it's the player's first turn and they're going second, they will flip 3 runes instead. D. Draw. The player draws a card from their main deck. See? It's as easy as A.B.C.D. The player then moves on to the action phase, where they can play as many cards as they want on the condition that they can pay the costs associated. Units are played into the base exhausted. Players can choose to move an unexhausted unit or group of unexhausted units from their base to a battlefield, exhausting it in the process. Units can move from the base to a battlefield of the player's choosing, but units can't move from one battlefield directly to another battlefield unless the card has the ganking keyword. When a unit moves to a battlefield, a showdown starts. The attacker can now choose to play an action spell. If they do, their opponent can respond with a reaction or let it resolve. When the attacker's action resolves, or if they choose not to play an action, the defender may play an action. This back and forth goes on until all players sequentially pass on playing spells. If the attacker enters an empty battlefield, it is an open showdown, and everyone can play actions in order starting with the attacker. After the showdown, if the attacking units are the only ones at the battlefield, they conquer it and gain a point. If the unit was moved to a battlefield with opposing units, the players add up their might and then they split the damage among the opposing units. If a unit is dealt damage that exceeds its might, it is killed and sent to the trash. If there are no defending units at the battlefield after combat, the attacker wins, conquers, and gain a point. If both players have units remaining at the end, the attacking player moves their units back to their base. Units lose all damage on them at the end of combat and the end of the turn. Overall, we feel optimistic about Riftbound's future, having enjoyed our game quite a lot. After having some time to digest it, I found myself personally thinking about it a fair bit, even going as far as booting into a League of Legends game, something I haven't done for over 10 years. We found the energy system refreshing, with the game having its own separate rune deck where the players are able to channel a few runes each turn to power up an action, directly contrasting other TCGs like Pokemon or Magic, where you're left either deck searching or praying to top deck the resource you need to actually play the game. The recycling mechanic is also a nice to have, ensuring you'll never run out of energy throughout the game, something that can happen in Pokemon if you're not keeping on tabs with your resources as you play. Whilst recycling runes may make the game easier in that specific example, it does also bring its own element of consideration. Recycling the wrong rune and you may not be able to afford the costs of the next card you need to play. The resource management is different, but a version of it still exists to separate the pros to the rest. Rune management also plays an interesting role in Showdown, as I found it really easy to play all the cards I could in my turn, leaving all my runes exhausted by the end. That means that I couldn't afford to play a reaction spell if my battlefield was being conquered. Players are going to need to think well past their first turn while strategizing to ensure they have all the pieces they need. Another thing players are going to need to think about is how their resources are spread across the multiple battlefields in play. Put all their eggs in one basket and they could be offering up 3 points to the opponents in the other battlefield. With the units' mights combining on shared battlefields, there's something to be said of strategically placing a spread of units with various mights across them. We also liked having the champion legend and their respective ability in play throughout the game. We can see how players' personal preference and playstyle is going to be reflected by the champion that they choose to build their deck around. This is particularly interesting when it comes to signature spells and units, which further lean into these decks' playstyle. It feels like each deck is going to truly be an extension of the player's personality and playing preferences. In general, deck building should be fun. In the demo, we played Jinx and Volibear. Jinx played quite quickly and saw Will gaining some early points, whereas Volibear is more of a late bloomer, with his early game focusing more on ramping up runes, and a lot of his cards costing more, but then hitting hard later. The general card style is nice too, with a very ancient fantasy-esque design language. The character arts look great too, especially the champion legend cards. However, I do think it's worth noting that currently, the majority of the art has been recycled from various other League of Legends projects, which feels like a shame. Hopefully, as the game continues to develop, we'll start to see some more original pieces. Riftbound has an impressive potential audience, with League of Legends already holding a lot of fans, and Arcane doing a great job at bringing in some more casual interest into the IP. As well as this, TCG players seem to be taking a big interest too. A lot of the people we play Pokemon with have exclaimed their excitement for the pre-releases, as well as bumping into some players on the circuit during our early event. As a Pokemon player, I speak for myself specifically here, but it feels like Riftbound is launching at the perfect time to capitalize on some of the players' disenfranchisement with the game. With Pokemon cards becoming increasingly more difficult to find and a hard lean in from investor bros, I'm finding myself getting quite jaded with the hobby, and if other Pokemon players are feeling the same, then I would expect to see some jump ship. Overall, we had a fantastic time playing this, and I am so excited for the end of October when I can start playing around for real and seeing if this really is something that I can find myself getting into. But we want to know what your thoughts are. Have you had a chance to play yet? And if not, are you excited to pick up some Riftbound cards and dive into the game yourself?